Today we are going to be working on a Compu Aire 10-ton unit that one of the circuits is not working properly, short cycling. Okay, troubleshooting this guy was kind of on the simpler side. If you can tell, this line is all frosted up all the way back to the filter dryer. Now that is because there's a restriction in the filter dryer, so it's actually acting like a metering device, and the refrigerant's boiling off at a lower pressure after the restriction. So, knowing the history of this unit, it's been worked on quite a bit. Compressor's been changed out a couple times. There's probably quite a bit of contaminant in the system. This is actually going to be the second filter dryer I've had to replace on this unit. So what we're going to do is, instead of me brazing it every single time I need to do this, we're going to put in a set of flare nuts and a flared in filter dryer. Alright, first thing I did was pull all the panels off, remove the filters, because we need access to this set of valves right here. This set of valves is going to allow me to pump the system down using the existing compressor to get as much refrigerant as possible into the condenser itself. Then we'll close these valves, so that cuts our recovery time down significantly. We're basically only going to have to recover the refrigerant from these valves up to the compressors. Okay, let's get started. Okay, we have our gauges hooked up, our recovery unit hooked up to our tank, and if you noticed, I've zeroed out the tank so we can tell exactly how much refrigerant we pull from the system, so we know exactly what to put back in. One thing I like to do that some guys don't do is I like to put a filter dryer, an evacuated filter dryer, mind you, on the recovery tank, and whenever I recover refrigerant from a system that was contaminated. I do that just as an added protection, moisture. This way, whatever I'm pulling out of there, I don't contaminate anything later, and it's just good practice. So you can see we got some pressure on, and we're going to turn this guy on, let it pump down. Once it pumps down, I'll start opening the valves. I've purged all the lines already. I'm going to pull from both the suction and high side, and it pulled down really quickly because we don't have much space to go, only from here to the compressors, which is pretty good. So we'll let this pump down and give it about 15 minutes or so, and then we'll get started cutting into the lines. Alright, we've been running about 25 minutes. We've pulled a vacuum on both our suction and discharge side. We are pulled about 12 pounds out of our system. I don't know if you can see that. So now it's just a matter of shutting this guy off and cutting into the system. Alright, I'm going to cut into the system here and all the way down here, take this whole section out so that it's easier for me to work on. That way I only have to sweat at the very most. I'm going to try to get away with one joint using the flare nuts. So we'll probably just swedge this joint and then flare after here, after the filter dryer, and then that'll be our other joint, and flare there. So that way I only got to braze one joint on the system. Less joints, less leaks. Okay, we're going to cut in the system with our little pygmy cutter. We should hear a little sucking in of the air because the system's under a slight vacuum. But it's quite a bit of volume, so. Yep, there we go. That noise you hear is sucking in because we have it under a vacuum. Very good. Okay, here we have my swedge tool, my flaring block, my old filter dryer, my new one. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to make another joint because it's too short to flare between my solenoid valve and my filter dryer. One big thing that people need to realize is automotive flaring blocks are usually 37.5 or a quarter or something like that degree flare, whereas refrigeration uses a 45 degree flare. Some hydraulic fittings use the 37 degree too, but most of your refrigeration stuff should be in 45. It's just, if you ever run into a flare problem that's leaking all the time, you might want to check the flaring. It might be that the block that they used, or some people, or even you're using, could have the wrong degree. When you're using your flaring block, you always put your piece of pipe about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch to a 1/16 of an inch higher, depending on your flare, so that it fits in that groove real nice. Always try to check my flare. Look at that. Beautiful. Very nice. Okay, this is our finished product, our 2 flare joints. I will braze this joint and this joint outside of the unit, so that way I only got to braze the very top joint and the very bottom joint inside the unit. That's it. Okay, we have our top joint brazed in, our lower joint brazed in. I probably should have told you that I took the valve apart, the solenoid valve, before brazing. You can't let that seat or any of them gaskets get hot. And that's it. Alright, we have our valve back together, our filter dryer in, flare nuts in. We've got a vacuum pump running, pulling both sides. It's been running about, I don't know, 10 minutes now. So it's already at about 480 microns. We'll let it run for another half an hour or so, get it down as low as we can get it, and then we can start filling the system back up. Alright, we've got our system down to 190 microns. It's been running for about half an hour, 45 minutes. We're going to shut the pump off and see if we have any leaks. As long as it stays below 500, we're pretty good. Alright, it's been about another 10 minutes or so, and it's staying at 350 on the button. So that's an acceptable amount of vacuum, an acceptable amount of time. So now we can start charging the system back up. Okay, we have both compressors running, both valves open. And we're running. There's really not a bit of pressure right now. But we're going to put our 12 pounds back in.